You know how in the National Hockey League there's fights?
Yeah,
Do they have fights in rugby?
sure do, yes.
Do the women fight?
Yeah, the women are actually prone to it, but they do a lot of screeching first, you know. If there's something annoys them and their adrenaline is more than getting them excited, they can become quite hysterically excited. You know, you hear these screams, sort of banshee howls, you know.
Really?
Yeah. You know, I've been watching some college rugby girls playing down in the Eastern Shore in Maryland when I get a moment to watch, and it's quite interesting. Some of the girls are a little bit what you would call more heavily built in the forwards, and they plod along, but you get the slim girl who's really athletic, they can really move, and then suddenly they you know, the body contact, you know. The anger, you can see them like well, if they're well built, the Incredible Hulk, you know, this get to the point where there's a lot of aggro. Yeah. Oh yeah. But as far as the men go, yes, you get punch-ups all the time. It depends on the atmosphere of the game. Some games flow, you know, there's a kind of expansiveness about rugby sometimes, which depends, I think, on conditions or even how important the game is. And then it's all hail fellow well met, you know. But then you get those tight games, such as perhaps the last World Cup final, when France and New Zealand were playing, and New Zealand won by 1 point. And obviously they were told, win at all costs.
Yeah.
And the game tightens up, and it becomes very tense. Instead of it becoming an expansive game, as gives the audience or the spectators something to look at. And one has to understand it. If you're into rugby and you understand what goes on, then a tight game which becomes a little bit dull for the uninitiated can be enjoyable in that you understand where the game plan is.
Yeah.
There is that to it. But the old, going back to the Welsh of yore, way back in the 70s and 80s when they were at their peak, before the mines were all closed, it was almost coincidental that when Margaret Thatcher caused the miners to implode and to lose all their spirit, when she broke the strike there and started closing the mines, so did Welsh rugby implode.
Really?
Yes, there was a correlation, because what it amounts to is that you can imagine a mining stock working at the coal face. Can you imagine the delight and pleasure it would be to get out onto the green field with the sun trying its best to appear, but at least there was that fresh air.
The British sun.
And so the Welsh had their zenith, their acme rugby was being played in those days with such personalities as we all remember there, but not least of all, in my opinion, J.P.R. Williams, of course, the rock solid fullback, who was built just like a brick, whatever you like to call it, a brick toilet block to be.
Wow. Very strong man, eh?
Yeah. Oh, unbelievable. I mean, he used to stand in the way as the fullback, as the last line of defence, and players would be bouncing off him. Unbelievable. But he could not run the marathon.
Really?
Yeah, he joined the London Marathon shortly thereafter. And he's a doctor too. He must understand how the aerobics and anaerobic exercise works. Well, that full 26 miles had to be run. And JPR, a fit rugby player like yourself, and you seem to think that I'm reasonably fit. And
you're very fit, yes.
Yeah, I feel quite fit after all this running around. They had the TV cameras on J.P.R. Williams, and I said to myself, this guy is absolutely bushed. He's not able to keep up a decent pace.
Yes.
But Jonah Lomu, the famous New Zealander, he was also the same. When it came to rugby, yes, he could roll over anything, just like a draught, or a front-end loader. But as far as running down the road was concerned, he was a slow 8-minute miler. Slow
Really?
8. So it takes all kinds, and it depends on your build and your athleticism and what your sport is.
Yeah.
Soccer players might be able to do it better, but rugby players are not the best of marathon runners, as was shown by the performance of JPR Williams on that particular occasion. Now I'm reminiscing. I'm going all the way back to the 80s when he was retiring.
Now, are you familiar with the lingerie football league in the States?
For what?
There's a women's football league called the lingerie football league, and the ladies play in their underwears.
Yeah, right.
Have they done anything with that, with the rugby, for the women?
Yes, I think so. They've all sorts of interesting names for the women.
Where is this?
Teams. This is in the United States. They have some. Really,
They have lingerie rugby?
Yeah,
I never heard of that.
Yeah, in the States they have many enticing rugby teams that the women have.
Where?
Well, I would think California.
Really?
Yes. They have, I think, a team called the Harlots. They just love to be called that. And then, of course, they've got their hookers.
The hookers? Yes.
Yeah, well, the idea.
Tell me the positions in rugby. How many positions are there?
Well, you start off with 15, of course, in a rugby team. And you have the fullback, as I've been telling you about with JPR, the last line of defence. Then you have the back division, which is composed of 4 players. A couple of wingers and 2 centres. So that takes care of 5. Then you have the halfbacks. Now the fly half is the equivalent of the American football's quarterback. The game really pivots around him. So that's the off half or fly half. Then you have the scrum half, who is in front of him. He is the guy who distributes the ball from the pack of forwards, and there's 8 forwards in front of him. So when you've added up that's 15 players. 7 backs, 8 forwards, 15. Now rugby league is different. They've got 13 players. They have a different code altogether. So rugby league, you'll notice if you watch them, they go on the field with 13 players in the team.
Really?
Yeah, but rugby union, which is what we're interested in at the moment, is the 15-man aside.
Wow.
Or 15 girls aside. Or 15 women aside.
Now the people in New Zealand that do that chant, the Maoris.
Yeah, the Maoris.
That's rugby?
Yeah, they do the haka.
Is that very intimidating?
Very intimidating. In fact, so intimidating that you could be completely almost defeated before you've started.
Really?
If you take it seriously. Yeah, that's the intention.
Wow.
But an Australian guy was a great character way back in the 80s, and he was a maverick fullback.
Okay.
A winger. He decided that instead of facing up to the guys doing the haka to try to to avoid being intimidated, he started practicing his punting. He was kicking the ball to make sure that when the game started, he could kick it into touch. And that was Campese, a chap called Campese, who was a total, a man who enjoyed telling people where to go, and who had a mind of his own. He says, I'm not going